Hi, everybody. John Townsend here. Welcome. It's 2:00 Pacific time, and this is what we do every Wednesday at this time, wherever you are in the world. We have a great community of people that are looking to make self-improvement and relational choices that are better and healthier, and it's a call-in show. And so very, very easy to do. We answer your questions. You come on, and we hear your voice. As you know, if you've been watching the show, we don't show your face for privacy reasons, or you can text your question in. And it's about the fact that, guess what? Life is complicated. Relationships are complicated. And sometimes we need kind of an aha, like, oh, that's why I attract people who just got out of prison. There'd be an aha there, right? Or why I don't feel good about myself when I fail, or why I'm afraid to fail, or all sorts of things. And we talk about it from let's find out the underlying thing that's going on and give you some practical steps to make life differently. And then people call back in later and say, hey, things are better. We like to hear that. So that's our format. And now our incredibly intuitive producer Stacy is going to tell you how this all works, and she's got numbers to give you and all the stuff that I'm not good at. Hey, Stacy.
Hey there, John. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being with us today here on the Dr. Townsend live show. And just as Dr. Townsend said, this is a call-in show only. So when you call in on the number, go ahead and disable the camera on the device that you're using, if it's a phone or laptop or iPad. So that we protect your privacy. And when you're connected with John, we'll only ask for your first name and where you're calling us from. So go ahead and grab a piece of paper and pen, because it's a long number. I'll get that to you. It is 1-877-853-5257. Again, 1-877-853-5257. And as an extra security measure, you'll need a meeting ID code to enter.
Keep talking, Stacy. I forgot to get my drink.
Okay. So you're going to need the meeting ID code, and that is 876-5437-2012. Again, 876-5437-2012. And as John was saying, if you're unable to call in today, this show gets broadcasted across all of his media platforms. So you can type a question in the comments on the media platforms if you're just watching the show, and I'll be happy to read those off to John for you as much as time allows. So without further ado, I see calls are stacking up, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Thanks again for being with us today, everyone.
Thank you, Stacy. All right. So while Stacy is trolling is a bad word. So while Stacy is interacting with people and finding out, who has a question about whatever. I want to talk a little bit today about the whole issue of being able to receive feedback. Now, I love to give feedback because I want to help people grow and change, but sometimes I don't like to get feedback. And so I would like the world to change so that I just give it and never receive it. However, that is not the way that God created the universe. And there's lots of stuff about, an abundance of counselors and, about hearing the truth, and feedback's good for us. But I want to talk a little bit about why it's so hard to hear it sometimes. Most of the time we have this monitor in our heads, and different words for it, but let's call it your little judge. Now, a judge is not a bad thing. I mean, you've got to have somebody to say, hey, don't go 95 miles an hour because you might be arrested. So your judge is helping you then. But most of us have an overactive judge, and he or she is a little harsh with us. Like, instead of, 95 is a bad idea, I bet you can go down to 65. It'll say, you idiot, or you ought to be in jail. What are you doing? And it's mean to us, and it's harsh. And I'm working on a book on that, on all the awful things we say to ourselves and what to do about them, because it can really paralyze you. Well, guess what happens when, somebody says, your work product wasn't what it was, and last quarter you had some issues, or maybe somebody in your personal life says, well, I see you. You're coming on. By the way, whoever is coming on now, I'll get to you in a second. I just want to finish the thought. And they say, you're not spending enough time with the kids, or you don't have enough discipline with the kids, or you got too much discipline with kids. And even if a person says it nicely, it will go through the lens of that harsh judge, and it'll mean meaner than it really was. Of course, if the person's mean, that's one thing. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people whose harsh judge will interpret things in a way when you go, well, I'm no good. I'm just, I'm just dirt because because I'm hearing you tell me I'm dirt and I should be condemned and all that. And it makes it so we get sort of, we get kind of allergic to good feedback, and we only hang around people that affirm us and tell us good things. I was in my church, our pastor was talking about a similar topic, and I forget what he said, but he said something like, some people say, before I got married, my wife said I was awesome about everything, and now she just says, you didn't pick up the laundry and the kids, and she doesn't think I'm awesome. And then and the pastor said, who was speaking, our pastor said, I have to tell my friend, dude, you never were awesome. Your mother just said you were. And that's why you went into marriage thinking your wife was going to be like your mother. And there's a lot of truth to that. So we kind of get set up that way. So that's why we get allergic to it. We don't want it. It feels ucky. We feel unloved and all this. So here's the little tip for that. When somebody says, can I talk to you about, I don't know, your attitude was a problem or whatever, your performance, whatever, just say the following. Thank you. I want to hear that. And I probably also need to know like some corrections I can do. I want to hear it. And the person will kind of, because they're always ramping up for you to get defensive and say, let's get an escalate. And if you say, yeah, I'd like to, but can you also give me some corrections? Just because when somebody tells us that we're doing something wrong, they don't give us a path. It's awful. Like, change your brain. Well, what do I do now? Get a lobotomy? But tell me some things I can do. And then that should help because the person will be nicer to you. They'll get it. And then what you do at the end of it, you say, okay, I have this harsh judge, as you know, can you just tell me one thing you like about me? And they go, oh my gosh, yeah, your heart is so good and you're kind to friends and you try so hard. And you go, okay, takes that. And it will really help you to take feedback, because those of us who have a hard time taking feedback, our lives start to suck. We need the feedback of other people. Anyway, somebody's been waiting a long time,
That's
Stacy.
right.
Very patient. So let's get rolling.
Absolutely. Okay. Caller ending in 300. You are live with Dr. Townsend on the Dr. Townsend Live Show. Go ahead and tell us your first name and where you're calling from.
Or you can tell us a fake first name if you're worried that you got some weird first name that everybody will know you. Like if you said, oh, hi, I'm Madonna. And then, oh, okay, Madonna's calling again. We don't want to shame you, Madonna. So a real first name or a fake first name, but a first name.
Caller, are you with us? Caller ending in 300. You are live. Okay. Maybe they're shy.
Well, please call back. We would love to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. We will move on. Okay. I'll be waiting. I will go and grab the next one, John. You can talk while I'm grabbing.
Well, I did have some further, kind of like steps to go. But let's suppose you've got a really, really mean judge. I mean, like maybe your dad said one day, sweetheart, it's raining because God's crying because you're so bad. I mean, that creates a really bad judge in us. It's awful. But some of us have like a DEFCON 5 judge in our heads. I forget which is the worst, 5 or 1. Some military friend call in and tell me. And if you still feel bad after the person has given you something, corrective to do, and they've also reassured you the good things they like about you, the next thing is you've got to go out of that. It's called a dyad, that one-to-one relationship between that person and you, and go to a third person. Just text him afterwards that he's had a hard time with my spouse, kid, boss, or whatever. And I'm just kind of beating myself up like I totally just geeked everything. And I just need to hear somebody nice. And what is best, I mean, it's good when they say, well, you work hard and you I don't know, you made good grades and you're all that. The task stuff, the performance stuff is nice. But the really thing that gets to our inner hearts is when they go after your character and they say, you really care and you do hard things. And I see you persevere. And I know you've had some struggles and I see you trying to be the best person possible and love other people. Character affirmation gets in deeper into us than task affirmation, than affirmation about the good things we do. Not bad. It's not bad at all, but it's kind of a secondary level that actually gets in here. So ask for that. You know, when I wrote People Fuel, there's this whole section of what we call relational nutrients. And those are what we need from each other every single day to kind of function well and do well, and anything from affirmation to comfort to strategy to action steps to understanding and perspective and to attunement. And so when it feels weird, and everybody, I mean, I trained CEOs of billion-dollar corporations how to do this, and just because they never learn how to ask for anything, they feel so, you know, high need or demanding or whatever. But when you kind of say, not kind of say, when you say to somebody, it's been tough. It's been tough. I just need to know I'm not crazy, or I am still a worthwhile person. And don't worry about doing that, because now you are informing the person who wants to give you a nice nutrient nugget of something positive. Now you're helping them target and say, that's what I needed. Book of James says we don't have because we don't ask. So do that. All right, Stacy, you had something.
Speaking of James, James was on the call, but said he had to hop off because someone walked in his office, but he typed out his question and sent it in. So James' question is, he said he came across your post the other day about boundaries, saying that when you keep your boundaries, those who are angry at you will have to learn self-control for the first time instead of other control. And he said, I've been in a 5-year relationship with my fiance. We recently did move in together 3 years ago. I'm now wishing that we hadn't done that. I am learning that she tends to pitch quite a few fits when she doesn't get her way. I have spoken to her about the fact that this causes us to get angry and even more frustrated, but she wants to control me in every aspect of my life. What would be a healthy way for me to break away from this relationship for a while to see if it's what I really want?
I'm sorry to hear that, James. It sounds like you got yourself in something, kind of not knowing what would happen. Now there's this deep commitment and you can't get away easily. And for some reason, she's acting out something on you that you weren't aware of, and maybe she's not. Get the book Boundaries first. Get it like yesterday. Henry Cloud and I wrote it about these kind of situations, and I think you need to be informed. People that try to set a boundary and they don't know what it is, it's like, you know, how do you turn on your, you know, your oven without getting the manual? And it won't go right, because you'll blow up, or you'll give in, or you'll cave in. Get the book. So I'm going to ask you to be kind of patient with the process and give yourself some time to get through it, because the principles are there. But having said that, break away for a while. I think you need to break away till you get married, man. I think that cohabitation is a bad idea in every sense of the word. You can look at it in the research about cohabitation, people's chances of getting and staying married. You can look at it, what it has to do with the brain. You got to, and also what the Bible says about it. It just doesn't work. And so I would want you to go to her, hopefully with just you, maybe a third person if you're terrified, but it'd be nice if you could do it you, and just say something like, Debbie, you're important to me. Obviously, you're my fiance, but as you've seen, whoever's fault it is, these conflicts between us are very, very painful. And I'm not saying I want out permanently anything, because I do care. But whatever happens to us, if we make it and we do get married or we don't, I need for us to live in 2 separate places. And so one of us will get a place somewhere else. And that's going to serve 2 purposes. This one is going to slow down the tension between us, but also there's a value that I have about marriage and sex. And I want to live with you when we are ready for marriage. That will then, James, serve 2 purposes at once. There's a long-term purpose and a short-term purpose. The long-term purpose is then you can think through really who you are, what you want, and how to do this. Marriage is the thing you want to do right. If there's anything you want to do right in life, is marriage. And don't start off with cohabitation. The short term is it will decrease the numbers of fights and, you know, being so close together. And then you start dating again, and people do this. I mean, I counsel tons of people do this. They do it and they start dating over again and spend time with their friends. And there is a tension that exists with cohabitation because the intimacy involved, not just sexual, but emotional and financial and relational, where people behave better. They tend to behave better. And that means that the fights are better. And then you learn better skills. And then you get a couples counselor if you need it. And so good luck with that, James.
Okay, John, your next question comes from Rhonda out of Tennessee. And folks, if you are trying to call in also and getting a busy signal or like not able to get into the show, hang up and try to dial back. I'll give you the number one more time, 1-877-853-5257. And use meeting ID code 876-5437-2012. Keep trying, and we will work with the tech gremlins to try and get you in here. Okay, so Rhonda from Tennessee.
No, wait a minute. We said we weren't going to be slamming the tech people. They're not gremlins. They are, what are they? They're tech gurus. We got to help these tech gurus.
Tech gurus. Yes, that is true. I think weather is not our friend right now.
Could be.
Rhonda.
Anyway, Rhonda.
Rhonda from Tennessee is asking you about loss and grief. She says, Dr. Townsend, I've been following you ever since you started doing the live show when we were during the shutdown. And thank you so much. We actually lost several family members during that first year. And it seems like we had some quiet time, and now we're back to losing family members yet again due to COVID. Some older with complications and some out of the blue that don't seem to make sense. I have a counselor that I'm working with, but I am really looking for some steps, some physical, tangible steps that I can do to deal with the great amount of grief and loss that I have felt. I'm 60 years old and feel I have a lot of life left, but there are days right now I just don't want to get up.
I'm sorry to hear that, Rhonda. These are what you would call massive losses. And since we're made relational at our very, very core, to lose people you care about and a number of them in a short period of time is it's overwhelming. And the sadness and the missing and the loss of energy and the loss of hope and all that. So I'm glad you checked in. The nature of grief and loss is that it is fundamentally a way to clear the brain from those things we cannot keep so that we can take in the new things that we can keep. So look at your brain. You're fundamentally happy, sort of okay brain as something that's got to feel good about life and have hope and energy and do things well. And when you have a loss, that person's no longer there. And without a grief process, we kind of stack up the bodies, so to speak, in our head, and they don't go, let me get a little technical for a sec. They don't go from our memory bank, our processing bank into our memory banks. Like our brain's like a computer. So there's the RAM. We're on the computers right now, right? We're talking, listening, thinking. But then tomorrow at this time, all the stuff that happened on the show will be in your memory banks. And that's the hard drive. That's the storage system. That's the library, the filing system. And so grief takes somebody that you lost, or a relationship or whatever, something sad. And it goes, we're going to process through comfort and weeping and love and adapting and all this. There's a whole system there. And then it puts it through what are called the neural pathways, that all these memories and thoughts you have about somebody that you love and care for, the smile they had, the times you spent together hanging out. Anyway, they all go, all these little neurons, neurotransmitters go down the neurological highway, like it's a freeway from here, of the processing part, into here, which is where the library is. And they're stored there, and they're good for us, because with grief, there's two things in that library, that filing system, that are great for us. One is that they have lessons learned. What did I learn from Aunt Sally? What did I learn from my friend Bill? And how I dictated the relationship, how I navigated the relationship, and all that. And the lessons learned are great because then we have a better life. The other is just significant memories. You know, a time we watched the sunset, or we went out and we went skating, or went to church and something wonderful happened. And memories kind of sustain us. When we don't grieve, then they things the bodies stack up here in our head, and it's nothing but you can't think straight because your brain, this part of the brain is so much smaller. The RAM, the processor, is so much smaller than the hard drive, which is gigantic. And all we can think, that's why when people can't grieve, they sometimes they'll have focusing problems, creativity problems, energy problems, mood problems, because there's nothing else in their head. It's like static in their head all the time about these things that are so sad they can't let go of. So that's why we grieve, because you want to be able to say goodbye emotionally, put people's in there, we call it internalization, put people that you've internalized into your memory banks and into your lessons learned. When it doesn't happen, it's overloaded here. In a case like yours, though, Rhonda, sometimes there's so much you're losing, it's overwhelming. It's not stuck. It's not like, oh, I just don't do this. You could be a good griever, and grieving is a temporary period. It's not permanent. But there's just so much that goes down the freeway. So let me give you some suggestions when people have what's called overwhelming or catastrophic grief, some suggestions on what to do because you want something practical. And here's just sort of some rules. The first one is, the more significant the grief, the more significant the support. So if you woke up in the morning and you found that the little bird outside that was chipping at your window died, that'd be sad. Maybe something you want to talk to somebody about. Maybe that was so sad, that this happened, but you need a lot of support from that. But you're talking about family members and people and multiples in a short period of time. That means it's more significant. That means you have to balance that out with a just as significant amount of support. That means finding safe people to talk to who can get it, who won't give you advice and won't kind of like tell you to get your act together, get back on the horse, be strong, be positive. That's balderdash during grief. It's just useless. You need to say people who will be comforting and say, tell me more about it. I want to hear it. And I know you need to say it 5 or 6 times, Rhonda, and it's okay with me. And I'll just listen and I'm feeling it with you. Tell me more. They listen. We call that attunement in my world. So you don't need more, a few people, but you need more people and you need more time. That's the second part is, as I said, if the griefs are massive, you have to have a significantly more support system just to process this stuff from A to B. Second thing is you have to be intentional about it. Grief works better when we go after grief. Some people kind of wait for grief to happen. I mean, like, for example, I lost my parents a few years ago in a very short period of time. And there was sometimes I would just be in a restaurant with my family, and then some song would come on. My parents were musical, and that reminded me of them. And I would feel verklempt and have to go excuse myself and take care of that, and just cry a bit. But I can't control that. I can't wait for those trigger events to happen because I don't want to be. I'm like you. I want to get moving on. So not only did I let those things happen, I had intentional times when I went after relationships and grieve with the people that could do it. And also I did it alone, me and just God alone. And you need both. So be intentional, schedule it, structure it. And then the other piece is there's a certain amount of what we would call replacement that can help with the grief. People bring certain things in our life, certain functions, certain capacities in our life that mean something to us. Maybe one of your family members was very warm and loving. Find somebody who has that capacity because that has to be replaced. You'll always remember the other person, but it's got to be replaced. Or maybe somebody has, was really, had great ambitions and was always inspiring and always wanting to be better, and you've always loved that part. Find people like that. So find people to replace those functions. It's not replacing the person itself, it's replacing the functions. Those kind of steps will help you in the process. Oh, sorry, the fourth one, stay busy. Work or parent or do service organizations. But our brain has to take a break from grieving. So do things that help you just to feel the endorphins and the accomplishments and those kind of things while you're doing the other, what was it? The other three suggestions I had. And I'm really glad you said that. I think a lot of us need to know that kind of thing, especially during these days, Rhonda. Thank you.
Okay, John, your next question comes from Timothy out of Florida. And he said he was trying to call in, but he's getting an error. So he's typing in his question also. He said, about 3 years ago, my wife was unfaithful in our marriage, and I love her very much. I've been in love with her since the moment we met and still am. The problem is that even though we've gone through counseling and on all aspects of our relationship, we are very healthy. The issue is with me. I still don't trust her. I still think about her with that other person, and I don't know if I can continue on like this. What can I do to start to build my trust in her?
Sorry to hear that. And by the way, I just want to affirm that when a spouse who has been betrayed still wants to make things work instead of I'm out, that is the hard road, and it's the high road. And I just wanted to let you know, I got a lot of respect for that. I don't think that's easy. There's a couple of things that you can do, Timothy. One of those is you may need to work out the horrible flashback, just painful thoughts about her with the guy in an individual therapy situation. That generally is not, you can't deal with that as thoroughly in marital counseling. I'm not saying it's quit the marital counseling. I'm saying invest in that for yourself, for individual, because there's things that you say, feel, and have to express that you would just probably put a governor in your, on what you wanted to say without, you don't need to edit that. You need to say it like it is. The Bible calls it confession. It's hard to confess the feelings like that without the thing. Is this going to make her feel too bad, or feel like I'm being punitive or whatever? That will help with the memories. Now, but that's different than the trust. I'm separating, I'm kind of bifurcating your question, Timothy. So one is the awful memories, take care of them that way. But I think that the trust thing is a different thing. And the way you work on trust is you follow this little saying that I have. Love is free and trust is earned. Love is free, trust is earned. We're supposed to love everybody, even yucky people. We're supposed to love them. Don't have to like them, but we're supposed to be for everybody. That's the way God is. But some people make the mistake of saying, and then if I love you, I must trust you. And that is not a good idea. Because trust is something that when it's broken has to be earned back by good behavior. So I would sit down in the marital counseling and say, I don't know, you said it was years ago, and talk to the therapist and her about how I don't trust her, and find out if it's because of any behavior that she's doing currently. Is she flirting? Does she have secrets? Is she whatever, things that would make you feel that there's some infidelity vibe going on, and scour it. And if she loves you, she'll put up with it because the trust is earned. And then it's on you when she and the therapist say, well, what do you need to trust me? And if you say, well, just a feeling, well, that doesn't do anybody good. You got to say, well, I need to know that that there are these times where I don't know where you are, or I don't know what you're thinking, that I can just query you. I'm not going to nag you. And if she says, I'll do that to help because I'm the one that sinned against you, I'll do that as long as you don't go crazy and get obsessional and get possessive. But you need to tell her what you need from her to earn it. Now, having said that, here's a cool thing. Henry Cloud's book on trust it's either out or on the way out soon. And I've read it. It's incredible. And it's the best book on trust I've ever read. So go to Amazon, either order or pre-order it, but that will have the steps, and it would correspond very well with the things we're saying. So good luck, Timothy. That was an important call. By the way, just to let you guys know, we always like to remind you that everybody wants their dreams, and everybody wants their passion. Everybody wants their fulfillment. Everybody wants, especially in the work world, opportunity to do something better at a level that, oh, thank you, Stacy. Henry's book comes out next week, release week. You got to get it. So this is about getting your new job, your new career, your new passion, or whatever. It's called the Townsend Institute for Leadership and Counseling at Concordia University, Irvine, California. We're fully online, and we've got all the accreditations. If you want to be a counselor, you can get anything from a bachelor's to a PhD in counseling with us now. You can, if you want to be a leader, or if you're leading, you want to lead better, you can get a certificate, or you can get a master's in organization leadership. Or if you want to be a coach, which is kind of the hot new career these days, executive coaching consulting, you can get a credential or master's. But if it's your time to go, I want to keep working, but online's, I hear it's pretty good. We think we've got opportunity for you. Our students are getting, we've got hundreds of students getting great jobs now after they spent a year with us, or 2 years or 3 years, depending on what their program they're at. And they're getting great reviews and great professional sorts of degrees. So if it's sort of like, you know, you were always the person at 8 years old that your friends came to you and said, my mom and dad don't like each other. I don't like myself. I don't fit in. And you help them and you heal them. That's your counselor part. You got a counselor passion. Or if you're the encourager, you want to develop people and tell people you can do better. I see strengths in you. Get in that music degree, get into sports, get into whatever, and you push people in development, go be a coach with us. Or if you were like the leader of the football team or the dance team or the student church team, and people kind of rallied around you, then get the leadership degree. But it could be the start of a new thing for you. So we always have these sessions where I get on and our top faculty get on and answer all the questions. We had one last week, and many people around the world said, I want to talk about it, and we'll let you know. So FYI, if you're ready to do that, if you're ready to break through the ceiling of your career.
Okay. All right. Welcome to the show, Olia. You are live with Dr. Townsend. Go ahead and tell us where you're calling from today.
Hello, Dr. John Townsend. I'm calling from Canada, but I'm Ukrainian by birth.
Hi, Olia. Thank you for calling, and I am praying for your country.
Thank you very much for your support, for your words of wisdom, and the topics that I would like to share. I'm looking for support, and I'm looking for probably some wisely insight how to deal with this situation. It's related to my relatives. Part of my relatives, they're actively involved into the war, and they came to my home to kill. And I know about this. I know about this fact. I know that they very deeply...
Wait a minute, I missed something. They came to your home to do what?
To Ukraine to kill. I mean, these relatives, they are deeply involved into this war physically.
Well, I want to make sure I got my facts straight. So these relatives of yours,
yes,
live in Canada and then went to the Ukraine to kill somebody?
No, they live in Russia. Some of
in Warsaw.
In Russia.
Oh, they live in Russia. Oh, so
yes.
these are your relatives in Russia, and they are on the side of the Russian army making war against the Ukrainians?
Yes. And those relatives, they exactly were shooting into my city, into my home. And I know about this. I know about this fact.
Now, they're shooting in your home in Canada, or they're shooting in your home back in Ukraine?
Yes, back in Ukraine. Right now, my family is safe in Canada, but my heart is not in peace, especially that I know that some of my relatives are deeply involved into this situation.
Now, who are the people that are... I want to make sure I've got this right. It sounds like you're saying that you have relatives that are shooting other relatives of yours, that you have Russian relatives that are trying to kill Ukrainian relatives. Am I missing that?
Yes, that's right.
It's true. And
Yes.
are these relatives to each other?
Yes, they're relatives to each other.
But they're on two sides of the war, like the Civil War back in America.
And it's and I know about this. I know about these facts that they are deeply involved.
Okay.
I was trying to reach those relatives. I was trying to bring
The relatives that are trying to kill the Ukrainians, or the
Yes.
relatives that are trying to kill the Russians?
relatives that were trying to kill Ukrainians on the Ukrainian territory on my motherland.
I see.
I was trying to reach them. I was trying to bring to their attention the facts, who we are. Especially they also have some part of, they also Ukrainians who were born in Russia, but by the nationality, they are Ukrainians as well. I was
Okay,
trying to
so
talk to
this
them.
is an awful conflict for you. You must be torn in half. So tell me the question you want me to help you with.
I don't know how to model this dialogue. I don't know how to talk about it because I'm feeling completely powerless to wake up the awareness, to wake up the human sides of the personality.
You want to tell the ones in Russia who are attacking the Ukrainian ones, you want to tell them to stop,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
Okay,
that's
now
true.
what is it that keeps you from reaching out to them and saying, please stop?
I was already trying to do so many times, and I feel completely powerless. Probably I'm not wise enough to wake up the humanity. Probably I don't know the tools how to deal with this deeply ingrained propaganda that they were immersed into. And this fact, by knowing that they are involved into the war, make me really very depressed. And I cannot even sleep sometimes when I'm thinking about that.
Because
That
it's
I know
people,
those
it's
people,
people
and I
you, it's
cannot
people
stop.
that you love, and you must be frightened and anxious right now.
Yes. And I also care about those my relatives in Russia as well, because they are not aware of what they are doing. And for me, it's a nightmare. And I don't know how to model this dialogue. I don't know how to touch the hearts, how to stop it.
Okay.
I'm looking the answers on those questions because it's
Okay.
for me, it's a very painful situation to be
Yes,
in.
it's, well, the deepest part of you is these relationships, and there's devastation going on, and the feeling is helplessness. Most of the time in your situation like here, it's deep helplessness, which is very, very bad for us. Let me give you some ideas. One thing I'm hearing in your delivery is some sense of responsibility that is too much for you. Do I pronounce your name Olia or Olia or Alia? Help me there. Sorry.
Olia.
Olia. You are bearing too much of a responsibility to fix something that's a geopolitical nightmare that nobody's fixing. And so when we take on these problems, like somebody said, I want to solve COVID, I want to solve poverty. Our intents are good. You care about these people, they're your relatives, but there's this group here that's doing bad things to the group in the Ukraine, and you're not big enough for that. So one thing I want you to do is to begin looking at your role as basically influence. And influence is different than how do I solve these people that I love killing each other. You can't solve it. You can influence. Solving is up to God, lots of other people, but don't put a burden on on yourself that will break you, because you'll end up getting depressed, Aaliyah, and you won't be able to function. So I want you to bring down the responsibility. All I can do, I'm Aaliyah, and I can influence and pray and all those things. And then you were concerned about, I don't know what I'm trying to research what are the arguments to use. No, I wouldn't even do that. I mean, you can if you want to. But I think I would just reach out to them and say, I think it's wrong, and I care about you, and I would like you to stop. And instead of going to the 14 different reasons, I mean, sure you could, but people are really crazy in this war. I would just say, I care about you, and I care about family, and I care about us as a family, both sides. And I'd like for you to stop. And then you let it go. And when you let it go, what you do is you're not saying, I'm not turning my back on you. I love you. I want to stay in touch with you, but I said my piece. That's influence. And I would not take the burden of coming up with the top 5 reasons they need to be having that war. I would just tell them, I think it's a bad idea. It's family against family. Don't do it. And then the other thing I would do, Aaliyah, and I don't know your situation, like, personally, relationally, I would make sure that you have people holding you up, that you can talk about how sad it is and how helpless you feel and how awful it is. In times like this, you need someone that you can just kind of like let them know, I'm scared, I'm sad, and I'm helpless, and let them just, without giving you answers, because we've talked about the answers of you're not alone. I think more than anything, you need to know you're not alone with people that understand Aaliyah, understand the devastation she's going through, and will support you. If it doesn't get better, and I'm just hearing you as a psychologist right now, if in about a week it doesn't get better, I want you to see a psychologist or therapist and talk to them about perhaps getting help for some depression, because I don't want you to slide down the slope. And best of luck to you. It's a tough situation. Thanks for calling, Aaliyah.
Thank you.
So tough when we have, our intents and our hearts are just bigger than our abilities sometimes. I mean, who doesn't want to see this thing end? Who doesn't want to see poverty and racism and sexism end? And you hope there's smart people at the top that are making decisions. We can do our part, but as people, we tend to have sometimes take on a burden it's not ours to bear. You read in the Bible about when, like, it says to work with your hands and do your job and be a good citizen, knowing that if we take on more than that, then it'll break us and then we're no good to anybody. So do what we can.
Absolutely. Okay, John, your next question comes from Leslie, and Leslie is out of Kentucky, and she says, Dr. Townsend, I've been watching the show for quite some time, and I've tried to call in, but my schedule doesn't work out. So I'm reaching out to you about the subject of gaslighting in a marriage and what that actually looks like. She says, I've experienced this in my childhood from different family members, but I feel like it's different with a spouse, especially as a wife. I'm coming from the Christian perspective that I am to continue to pray for my husband and support him and be there for him. However, over the last 5 years, I have really been triggered by some of the things that he is doing to me that feel very familiar to what I experienced trauma-wise as a child. I don't want to throw this word out at him because he'll tell me that I'm using complicated words. How can I speak to him about what I am feeling with his gaslighting in a way that will not make him be on the defensive?
Okay. Yeah. Gaslighting can be very intense in highly significant relationships like marriage, parent-child, child-parent, those sorts of things. And it can be awful, awful, awful. The kernel of, the kernel of, like, the bottom line of gaslighting, it's when a person attempts to make another person feel like their perspective is wrong for the purposes of controlling that person. They try to make the person feel like they're crazy, or they're overreacting, or they're being too sensitive, or they didn't see it the right way, or whatever, so that they can control their behavior. In other words, so the person will be more compliant, will put up with bad behavior, will go along with bad things. That's the fundamental idea. And you did a lot. You're doing a lot of right things, Leslie, in the beginning. That was good. Like, pray and support, and those are great. Never stop those. Oh, got a note from you. You also say the family thinks you are disrespecting him if, as a Christian wife, you bring it to his attention instead of praying about it. Yeah, I got an idea for your family. Have them to read the whole Bible. That'd be an idea. It's not, I just love it when people cherry pick a verse and they say, this is what you should do. And you just forget tons of Bible passages, such as speak the truth in love, such as confront one another, such as shake this dust off your sandals, such as guard your heart. Oh, so hi, family of Leslie. Think you're not reading your entire Bible. So blow that off for a second. Let's get back to you. The way that to approach it, and I'm going to say this in sort of a stepwise sequential way to make it easy to understand. Even when somebody's doing something like that, you're convinced they are, and it's not working. When you go on the path that I'm going to give you, you always start with vulnerability. So you don't come in with, guns blazing and say, this guy on the show said you are the gaslighting. I mean, no. You will not get what you're after. You come in and say something of the order of, on a vulnerable level of, I care about us. You're important to me. You're who God brought me to me. You're my most special person. But I need to talk to you about something. And what is it? He says. And then you say, I know that I'm not perfect and I want to always change and I want to take the beam out of my eye. And maybe some other time we can talk about whatever I'm doing that alienates you. But there have been several times when I have had a reaction to you that you're doing something hurtful and you have said that it's all me, it's all in my head, that I'm making it up, I'm exaggerating and that sort of thing. And it could be, because we all have that. And I'm willing to take the beam out of my eye again and say maybe, but I'm seeing a pattern of anything that I'm kind of unhappy with in your tone of voice or when you do whatever. And I want to be able to explore that with you. Now, if he goes, yeah, let's talk about it, then that's good. Because he can say, yeah, I did have a snarky tone or whatever. And maybe he just maybe he's too confrontive, maybe he's not warm enough, or great, then he changed it. But if he says, no way, none of this is me, it's all you, then you're sad about it. Then you say, this isn't going to go away, I'm convinced. And then you get around objective people in your life. Because, like they say, if one person tells you that you're a horse, tell them they need medication. If 7 people tell you a horse, then you better buy a saddle. So make sure that you're not speaking from your past trauma, where, I've worked with couples where the one spouse had past trauma and everything the spouse did felt like the trauma because they hadn't fixed the trauma. So they weren't objective. So make sure you've, gone to a therapist. I'm making this up. No, you've worked through your trauma, et cetera, et cetera. Got to do that. But then at the point that the final point is not the final point, but the next point is you start to write down stuff, record it, and just say, because then they can say, I didn't say that. And you can say, yeah, yesterday you said these words and it wasn't true. And it wasn't true about me. And you begin to do that. Now, there's some spouses that'll go, maybe I'm doing that. They're not severe. They're like mild to moderate. And then they say, let me take a look at it. And you guys work it out and, love each other. And then next time he does it, then you say it happened again. Or he says, always you. Now you said, how can we do this? How can I do this without him escalating or getting defensive? Well, you can't control somebody getting defensive. Let's get that out of there. You're just trying to do the right things in a kind, sequential way to give him all these opportunities. But if his mind is made up that he wants to control you, he's going to fight the whole way. And that's when you say, I've tried everything. We need to see a marital counselor. So those are the steps. And I wish you well, Leslie.
Okay, John, your next question is coming from Jack. We've gotten several males calling in today.
Dudes.
Jack says, that was me calling in on the line, but I'm stuck in traffic and can't hold the signal. So I'm hoping the question makes it to you. He says, I am in the middle of a pretty substantial job shift, move from one firm to another. The location is going to be a little bit further, but the salary and the freedom that I will have with my family is going to be a lot better. The problem is my wife is not happy about me changing positions because she doesn't quite see the value of the new firm the way that I do. And she is very apprehensive and nervous about me making a mistake. What can I do as her husband to reassure her that no matter what, even if it is turns out to be a mistake down the road, that things will be okay.
Jack, we don't know that. I mean, I think you're setting yourself up to say, no matter what, honey, if they go bankrupt and I get put in jail, it's going to be okay. I mean, we can't say that. So I would take that off of your approach to your wife. In situations like this, and it's kind of a fait accompli. I mean, you've already made the commitment, obviously. It's not like we're still processing and talking about it, praying together. I'm going to do this. And she is still highly apprehensive. I think she needs some kind of a real guarantee from you. And it would be something like, let's sit down and look at what success is. Stable income, we're raising a family. I'm not gone too much. I'm still around as a husband and father, an adequate amount of time to nurture the family and have good self-care and have friends that go to church. And so you guys list the 5 or 6 or 7 things that define a successful family. I mean, that part's not really rocket science. Everybody wants the same things pretty much, but it's got to be down there. So, and you work it out, and then you say, Gail, yeah, it's like a whiteboard thing. You say, are these the things that wherever I'm working and wherever we are, I don't care if we're in like, Timbuktu or we're in Ohio, this is what would mean a happy family. I mean, this is what Focus on the Family is about. And I work with them a lot. I mean, the basis of a happy family. And then she goes, so get the new job out of your head. Let's get big picture. And then she goes, yeah, those 5, 6 things, are what I feel like is a good, solid family, marriage, parenting thing with you. Okay, we're the same page. And then I would say, all right, I know this is a risk, and I don't have a crystal ball, but I've committed to this, and I know you're scared. So I want to let you know that let's look at this as a trial, because you come first. And if our marriage and our family relationship is injured by this or compromised by this, maybe it's a bad move, or maybe I'm gone too much, or maybe the company's not right, or whatever, I want us to give it a certain amount of time to see if this works. And you negotiate a period of time. I don't know if maybe it's a year, maybe it's 6 months, but something where you got a chance to swing the bat, Jack, and do your best. And she can observe and she can support as well as she can. But you tell her that if we find that in X amount of time, those 5 things are not happening at adequate amounts, and you've tried and I've tried, and you're not trying to sabotage, and I'm not trying to blow smoke anywhere. I mean, I'm not trying to idealize. I don't want you to tank it. Let's give it a real try so that you'll know that I love you and that you're solid with me. I will go find something else, and maybe I'll have to look for a while, and maybe who knows, but you come first. And if I was what I call her, Gail, I would go, I don't like to wait that long. And you go, I know, but I've already committed and I'm asking you to do this. And I think if Gail, unless she has some kind of anxiety disorder that she just can't take any kind of ambiguity, then she says, okay, I'll support. But you hold to your promise, and you keep that list there, and that's objective, and it's clear. Clarity helps. That's what I would do. Good luck.
Okay, John.
Whiteboard experimental, right, Stacy?
I meant to say experiential, not experimental, but experiential.
I was kind of experimental myself when you.
True. Yeah, I like that. That's a good action step. And it brings her into the fold. So great advice.
And it makes her, yeah, she's part of the team and she's the priority. So that helps.
Right. So your last question today is coming from Cassie, and she is here in California. She says, Dr. Townsend, I am ready to stop being the yes person in my life. I'm 26 years old.
The what is person?
The yes person.
The yes person.
Said I'm 26 years old. I'm in school. I hold down a job. I live on my own, but I have a group of friends that I've grown up with here, and comrades as well. And it just seems that I consistently overextend myself. I say yes to too many things. I would like to get my boundaries in a better fashion so that I am not constantly feeling overwhelmed and pressured. But I hate saying no to people. How can I get past this?
Well, first off, Cassie, I am so thrilled that you are asking me this at 26 and not 46. Well done. Because this can change the entire trajectory of your life to get the boundary muscle for the next how many years. So way to go. That book is older than you are, by the way, but isn't that weird? You're obviously aware of the nomenclature. You use the word boundaries and you use the word comrades, which means you probably read People Fuel. So you kind of get the approach that I'm coming from. Boundaries are best developed in a supportive, nurturant environment that loves your no. Look at you, like, you know, like you said, I don't want to be a yes person. So you probably got a great yes muscle, right? You know, hey, I'll help you. I'll do that. Oh, okay, I'll give you the money. Oh, I'll go move you out of your apartment tomorrow. You know, your yes muscle kind of developed, maybe overdeveloped, right? But you got to develop a no muscle, and you've got to be around people who know that you've got to like have a little wimpy no, boundary muscle that doesn't ever work, and it's kind of young and it's kind of frail, and you got to take it to those people. So you get 2 or 3 friends and you say, let's read boundaries together. And I want to start working on these skills. What I'm saying is you don't do it with those people that you're hanging out with that you let control you, because that's kind of a bad laboratory. They're used to the Cassie that, oh man, she's like spaghetti, throw her against the wall and she'll stick and she'll be flexible, everybody. Now you don't want those, because then when you start saying no to them, they're going to, razz you and give you a hard time. They're for later when that muscle's bigger. You just say, I got to concentrate on this. And so what happens is when you understand the principles and you understand, Stacy put an icon of spaghetti. Sorry, Cassie. So but you got to have the information, which is the boundaries book. There's like 7 or 8 here now wrote, but I'd start with the basic one and you study it together and you understand that here's the concepts. Here's why it's good for you. Here's what the science says. Here's what the Bible says. So you go, your head goes, I'm informed now. I can build up this muscle because I've got the information, but that's not all you need. You also need the experiences. And that is when you practice the skills of role playing with people that love you. And so, Jennifer says, hey, I want you to come out and hang out with me tonight and help me paint my apartment. And you go, I can't. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Well, all right. The next time you say, and she's just faking it. It's just a role play, but you got to go through the anxiety and the stress. And then you try it again, and you go, I can't. And she goes, I thought you loved me. I thought you were my friend. And then you cave in. And after a few times, you kind of go, look, I am your friend. And stop being silly. I can't do it. And you feel stronger. And the team goes, way to go, Cassie. You got the muscle. You got the muscle. And then you do that, and it doesn't put you into a panic state. Then you start practicing with your friends in teeny ways, but not the whole group of these friends. I'm sure they're nice people. They're just used to you being spaghetti. But you one at a time. And then there's a new Cassie in town. Good luck. Well, that was a good way to end up. Kind of positive, kind of fun, and now it's kind of silly.
That's right. And that's all our time for today.
Yeah. Thank you guys for growing and for caring about relationships and doing the right things. And we just love how you want to make life better. So have a great week. We'll see you next week.